Welcome back to the Artificial Fluency Podcast. I'm Emma. Today, we are going to have a very casual, normal conversation. That's right, we're going to listen in on some small talk between a taxi driver and the passenger. Small talk, so that's basically small, short conversations you have with someone that you don't know very well. Okay, so typical questions like how old are you, where you're from, etc. That's right. And this can be really hard for English learners because they often don't know what the right thing to say or the right thing to talk about. So we're going to give you a lot of phrases in this lesson that you can use in small talk. Okay, so we don't have anything to preview today, so let's listen to the dialogue for the first time and then we'll come back. Where to, miss? Hi, Crenshaw and Hawthorne at the Holiday Inn that is on that corner. Sure thing. So, where are you flying in from? From China. Really? You don't look very Chinese to me, if you don't mind me saying so. It's fine. I am actually from Mexico. I was in China on a business trip, visiting some local companies that manufacture bathroom products. Wow, sounds interesting. Excuse me if I'm being a bit nosy, but how old are you? Don't you know it's rude to ask a lady her age? Don't get me wrong, it's just that you seem so young and already doing business overseas. Well, thank you. In that case, I am 26 years old, and what about yourself? I'm 40 years old and was born and raised here in the good old US of A, although I have some Colombian heritage. Really? That's great. Do you speak Spanish? Yeah, of course. Qué bien, entonces podemos hablar en español. Alright, so I don't think this guy spoke much Spanish, do you? No, even though he has Colombian heritage, I think he doesn't speak much. But maybe he's just a little bit rusty. Maybe, but what he does speak is English, and since this is English Pod, why don't we look at some of the phrases that they used for small talk in Fluency Builder. Fluency Builder. Alright, so today on Fluency Builder, we're going to take a look at phrases that both the passenger and the taxi driver use to make small talk. So why don't we start with the first one? Alright, so the taxi driver tells the passenger that she doesn't look very Chinese, if you don't mind me saying so. Right, so he said, you don't look very Chinese to me, if you don't mind me saying so. If you don't mind me saying so. So what does he mean by this last part of his sentence? Well, this is a phrase that we use to soften a sort of a statement that might be a little bit rude. She could be Chinese, yeah, right? So it may be a little bit rude to say that, but he kind of apologizes. That's right? By saying, if you don't mind me saying so. Okay, so for example, I could say, hey, Marco, you look a little tired today, if you don't mind me saying so. Okay, so does it always go at the end? You could use it at the beginning. If you don't mind me saying so, I just don't think this is a good idea. Okay, very good. So you can use this phrase in the beginning or at the end of a sentence. Right, and it makes your statement a little bit less rude. If you don't mind me saying so. Now, again, he also apologizes a little bit when he says, excuse me if I am being a bit nosy, but... Excuse me if I'm being a bit nosy, but... Excuse me if I'm being a bit nosy, but... Okay, so let's take a look at this. Nosy, what's this? Okay, when somebody is nosy, it means they're very curious. They are asking too many questions. Yeah, asking more questions than they should ask. Right. So he apologizes and says, well, excuse me if I'm asking too many questions. And then he asks her another question. He asked her how old she is. Right. So again, it's a polite way of maybe asking a question that might be a little bit sensitive. Yeah, or a little bit impolite. Okay. So, of course, asking a woman her age maybe is a little bit impolite, right? Yes. Typically, women don't like that too much. But our next phrase, we heard the taxi driver say, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Okay, so don't get me wrong. He says, well, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. That's right. This phrase is used so commonly in English that I think it would help us to hear some examples. Example 1. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I think you stole my computer. It's just that you were the only one who could get into my room. Example 2. I do have a few problems with the pen, but don't get me wrong. I still think it's a good idea. Example 3. Don't get me wrong, I think John's a nice guy. He's just a bit disorganized. All right, very good example, so don't get me wrong, right? That's right. And now for the final phrase on putting it together today. Well, the passenger, the woman, says her age. She says, I'm 26 years old, and what about yourself? What about yourself? What about yourself? All right, now, this sentence isn't very correct, actually, right? Yeah, technically, it's not correct in grammar, but it is used so commonly every day by American English speakers that we thought we'd show it to you. Okay, so you would say, I am 26 years old, and what about you? That's right, okay? But commonly you will hear people say, what about yourself? And if you use this, you'll sound really fluent and really native-like. Okay, very good. So what about yourself? So again, it's just like, what about you? So I could say, hey, Marco, I'm going away on holiday this weekend. And what about yourself? Okay, what about yourself? So we've taken a look at these 4 phrases on putting it together. Why don't we listen to the dialogue for the second time? We're going to slow it down a little bit, and then we'll come back and take a look at some vocabulary words on language takeaway. Where to, miss? Hi, Crenshaw and Hawthorne at the Holiday Inn that is on that corner. Sure thing. So, where are you flying in from? From China. Really? You don't look very Chinese to me, if you don't mind me saying so. It's fine. I am actually from Mexico. I was in China on a business trip, visiting some local companies that manufacture bathroom products. Wow, sounds interesting. Excuse me if I'm being a bit nosy, but how old are you? Don't you know it's rude to ask a lady her age? Don't get me wrong. It's just that you seem so young and already doing business overseas. Well, thank you. In that case, I am 26 years old. And what about yourself? I am 40 years old and was born and raised here in the good old US of A, although I have some Colombian heritage. Really? That's great. Do you speak some Spanish? Yeah, of course. ¡Qué bien! Entonces podemos hablar en español. Well, we've got some interesting vocabulary words and phrases here in language takeaway. And the first one, well, after she gets in a taxi and tells him where she wants to go, he answers by saying, sure thing, sure thing, sure thing, sure thing. So if I say, yeah, sure thing, what does that mean? Well, let's listen to some examples to help us understand. Example 1. Do you mind lending me $100? Sure thing. Example 2. Could you please send me the email by the end of the day? Sure thing. Example 3. Do you mind lending me $100? Sure thing. Could you please send me the email by the end of the day? Sure thing. Example 4. Can you get some milk on the way home? Sure thing, I'm on my way now. Okay, so sure thing, basically, yeah, no problem, or okay, or I'll do it. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. So it's a very common way. You will hear this a lot when somebody agrees or says, yes, no problem. Yeah, and again, it will help you sound really native-like to use this phrase. Well, the next one, the taxi driver says, I was born and raised here. I was born and raised here. Born and raised. Okay, so this is a way of saying I was born in this country and I haven't left this country. That's right, so I'm from this country, okay? Born and raised here in the good old US of A. Good old US of A. The good old US of A. So this is a pretty interesting way of saying America, right? It's actually more of a phrase, right? The good old US of A. Yep. Okay, so it means the good United States of America. Yeah, it's kind of a fond way or friendly way of describing America. All right, and we have one more word for language takeaway. Well, the taxi driver was talking about his Colombian heritage. Colombian heritage. All right, so if I have Colombian heritage, what does that mean? Your grandmother or, grandfather, great-grandmother, or someone in your family is from Colombia, okay? And what about the word heritage by itself? Yeah, so your heritage is basically your culture, your customs. Yeah, your customs, your history. Okay, so heritage, a country rich in heritage. Lots of good old historical culture in that country. Okay, very good. So now it's time for us to listen to the dialogue for the last time. Now we can understand all these phrases and these great words that we've just looked at, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more. Where to, miss? Hi, Crenshaw and Hawthorne at the Holiday Inn that is on that corner. Sure thing. So, where are you flying in from? From China. Really? You don't look very Chinese to me, if you don't mind me saying so. It's fine. I am actually from Mexico. I was in China on a business trip, visiting some local companies that manufacture bathroom products. Wow, sounds interesting. Excuse me if I'm being a bit nosy, but how old are you? Don't you know it's rude to ask a lady her age? Don't get me wrong. It's just that you seem so young and already doing business overseas. Well, thank you. In that case, I am 26 years old, and what about yourself? I'm 40 years old and was born and raised here in the good old US of A. Although I have some Colombian heritage. Really? That's great. Do you speak Spanish? Yeah, of course. Qué bien, entonces podemos hablar en español. So Marco, this taxi driver makes a bit of a mistake when he asks the woman how old she is. Yes, yeah, exactly. There are a couple of questions that in some cultures are considered to be normal and okay, yeah, but in other cultures they're not really well accepted. Okay, so in Anglo culture, for example, it's really impolite to ask a woman how old she is. Right, women are a little bit more sensitive about their age. Others aren't so much, but it's usually better to just not ask. Yep. And what else should we avoid talking about in small talk? Well, for example, when you ask a person their occupation, yep, you can ask what they do for a living, but don't ask how much money they make. That's right, Anglo people are really sensitive about talking about money. We hate talking about money. Right, so don't ask somebody their salary or how much money they make. It's just not considered to be polite. And another good one to be careful of is asking if someone is married or not. Right, sometimes you're just being friendly and you want to know if that person has family or something. But you have to be careful when and where you ask this question. Right, so if they've mentioned their family, or if they talked about their kids or something else to do with their family, then it's okay. Right, you can say, well, oh, how long have you been married? Yeah, but if a guy asks a girl, oh, are you married? It kind of sounds like maybe he's interested in her or that he's trying to come on to her and to be maybe more than friendly, right? That's right. How to start a short or long conversation with someone you don't know. Talking to someone you don't know can feel challenging, especially if you are shy or not sure what to say. However, starting a conversation is an important skill that can help in many situations, such as making new friends, networking, or simply being polite in social settings. The key to a good conversation is confidence, a friendly attitude, and the ability to find common ground. When you see someone you want to talk to, the first step is to observe the situation. If you are at a social event, a cafe, or a public place, look for something you can comment on. This could be the weather, an interesting item the person is carrying, or something happening around you. A simple greeting such as hi or hello can be enough to open the conversation. A smile and open body language also make you look approachable and friendly. Once you say hello, the next step is finding a way to continue the conversation. Asking a question is often a great way to engage someone, because people generally like to share their thoughts. If you are at an event, you can ask, how do you know the host? Or have you been here before? If you are in a waiting area, you can ask, is this your first time here? Or how has your day been so far? Simple, open-ended questions give the other person a chance to talk, making the conversation feel natural. It is important to listen carefully to their response and show interest in what they say. Nodding, making small comments like that's interesting or, oh really? Can encourage them to keep talking. If the person responds positively, you can continue by asking more about the topic or sharing a little about yourself to keep the conversation balanced. Once the conversation has started, the next step is to keep it going naturally. It is important to pay attention to the other person's responses. If they seem interested and give detailed answers, this is a good sign that they are open to continuing the conversation. On the other hand, if their responses are very short or they seem distracted, they may not want to talk at that moment. And that is okay. A good conversation flows smoothly, like a game of catch, where both people take turns speaking and listening. One way to keep a conversation interesting is to ask follow-up questions based on what the person says. For example, if they mention that they just came back from a trip, you could ask, "Oh, that sounds amazing. Where did you go?" Or what was the best part of your trip? This shows that you are listening and encourages them to share more. However, it is important not to ask too many personal questions too quickly. Instead, keep the conversation light and friendly by discussing common topics like hobbies, interests, travel, or work. If you find something you both enjoy, such as a shared interest in music, sports, or movies, the conversation can become even more engaging. Body language also plays a big role in keeping a conversation going. Maintaining eye contact shows that you are paying attention, but staring too much can make the other person uncomfortable. A relaxed posture, occasional nodding, and smiling can make the interaction more enjoyable. Avoid crossing your arms or looking around too much, as this might signal disinterest. The goal is to make the other person feel comfortable and valued in the conversation. If you are not sure what to say next, sharing a small story or personal experience related to the topic can help. For example, if the person talks about their love for books, you might say, "I recently read an amazing book about space travel. It made me think about how big the universe is." This keeps the conversation engaging and invites the other person to respond. Conversations are not just about asking questions. They are about exchanging ideas, opinions, and experiences in a natural way. As the conversation continues, it is important to make the interaction feel natural and enjoyable for both people. A key aspect of this is balancing speaking and listening. Sometimes people get too focused on what they should say next and forget to listen carefully. A good conversation is like a dance. It requires both participants to contribute equally. If one person talks too much, the other might lose interest. If one person talks too little, the conversation might feel awkward. The best conversations have a natural rhythm, with both people sharing and responding in a relaxed way. One way to make a conversation more engaging is by adding humor. A lighthearted joke or a funny observation can make the atmosphere feel comfortable and help build a connection. For example, if you are talking about the weather, you might say, "It's so hot today. I feel like I'm melting like an ice cream cone." This kind of friendly humor can make people feel more relaxed. However, it is important to be mindful of the type of humor used. Some jokes might not be appropriate for everyone, so it is best to keep them simple and positive. Another important aspect of keeping a conversation flowing is knowing when to change topics. If the conversation feels like it is slowing down, introducing a new subject can bring fresh energy. You can do this by making an observation about something happening around you. For example, if you are in a cafe, you might say, "This place has a great atmosphere. Have you been here before?" This gives the other person a chance to respond and helps move the conversation forward. Changing topics naturally helps prevent awkward pauses and keeps both people engaged. When talking to someone you do not know well, it is also good to show genuine interest in their thoughts and opinions. If they express excitement about something, such as their favorite hobby or a recent experience, responding with enthusiasm can make the conversation more enjoyable. Saying things like, "That sounds really interesting," or "Wow, I've never tried that before. How did you get into it?" makes the other person feel valued and appreciated. People enjoy talking about their interests, and showing curiosity can lead to a deeper and more meaningful exchange. However, it is also important to be aware of the other person's comfort level. If they seem hesitant or quiet, giving them space and not pushing too many questions can help them feel more at ease. Some people take time to open up, and that is completely normal. Respecting personal boundaries and being patient creates a comfortable environment where both people can enjoy the conversation without feeling pressured. By paying attention to the flow of the conversation, keeping the mood light and positive, and showing real interest in what the other person is saying, it becomes easier to create an enjoyable and meaningful interaction. The goal is not just to talk, but to connect, even if it is just for a short time. Ending a conversation with someone you do not know well is just as important as starting one. A good ending leaves a positive impression and makes the other person feel comfortable. When a conversation has gone well, both people should feel satisfied with the interaction, even if they do not see each other again. The key to closing a conversation smoothly is to find a natural stopping point. This could be when there is a pause, after a shared laugh, or when a topic has reached its natural end. If the conversation is still engaging, but you need to leave, it is polite to express that you enjoyed talking and that you appreciate the conversation. One of the simplest ways to end a conversation is by summarizing what was discussed in a friendly way. For example, if you talked about traveling, you might say, "It was really interesting hearing about your trip to Italy. I hope you get to travel again soon." This shows that you were listening and that you valued what the other person shared. If you had a light conversation about the weather, food, or hobbies, you could say something like, "I really enjoyed chatting with you. It was nice to take a break and have a good talk." These small statements make a big difference in leaving a positive impression. If you would like to continue talking to the person in the future, you can suggest staying in touch. This can be done in a casual way, such as, "I really enjoyed talking with you. Maybe we can catch up again sometime." If appropriate, you can exchange contact information or connect on social media. However, it is important to read the other person's reaction. If they seem open to staying in touch, that is great. But if they seem unsure, it is best to end the conversation naturally without any pressure. Some conversations are just meant to be in the moment, and that is perfectly fine. In situations where you need to leave but the conversation is still going, being polite and direct is the best approach. You can say something like, "I would love to keep talking, but I have to go now. It was great meeting you." This shows appreciation while making it clear that you need to end the conversation. If you are in a public place, such as a cafe or an event, you can also give a reason, such as, "I have to get back to work now, but I really enjoyed our conversation." Giving a small reason can make the ending feel natural and comfortable. There are also times when you might need to end a conversation that is not going well. If the conversation feels awkward or if the other person does not seem interested, ending it politely is the best choice. You can say something like, "It was nice talking with you. Have a great day." This keeps things positive and avoids any uncomfortable situations. If you are in a social setting where you might see the person again, a simple smile and "see you around" works well. Understanding when and how to end a conversation is an important skill. A good ending leaves both people feeling good about the interaction, whether it was just a brief chat or the beginning of a new friendship. The goal of a conversation is not just to talk, but to connect in a meaningful way. Whether the conversation was short or long, making the other person feel comfortable and appreciated is what truly matters. Starting and maintaining a conversation with someone you do not know can feel challenging, but it is an important skill that can lead to meaningful connections. Conversations begin with small steps, such as a friendly greeting or a simple comment about the surroundings. These small openings help create a comfortable atmosphere and show that you are open to interaction. A good first impression is important because it sets the tone for the entire conversation. Smiling, making eye contact, and using a polite, friendly tone make it easier for the other person to respond positively. If the person seems interested in talking, the conversation can naturally develop from there. Once the conversation has started, keeping it going is the next challenge. Asking open-ended questions is a great way to encourage the other person to share their thoughts and experiences. Questions like, "What do you think about this place?" Or "How did you get into your job?" Give the person an opportunity to speak more than just a yes or no response. Listening actively is just as important as asking questions. Nodding, making small comments like "that sounds interesting," and maintaining eye contact show that you are engaged. People enjoy talking to those who genuinely listen to them. If the person responds positively, the conversation will naturally flow as both of you exchange thoughts and ideas. Finding common ground is a key part of making the conversation enjoyable. Shared interests, experiences, or opinions help create a stronger connection between two people. This could be something simple, like both enjoying the same type of food, or something deeper, like similar life goals. When a common topic is found, the conversation feels easier and more natural. Even if there are differences in opinion, responding with curiosity and respect keeps the conversation positive. A good conversation does not always require complete agreement. It is more about understanding and engaging with the other person's perspective. Ending a conversation is just as important as starting it. A smooth and polite ending leaves a good impression and makes both people feel comfortable. If the conversation has gone well, summarizing a key part of the discussion is a great way to close it. Saying something like, "It was really interesting to hear about your trip to Japan," or "I enjoyed talking about music with you," shows that you were listening and appreciated the discussion. If you would like to continue talking in the future, you can suggest staying in touch or exchanging contact information. However, if the conversation was just a brief interaction, A friendly, "It was great talking to you. Have a wonderful day" is enough to end it on a positive note. In some cases, the conversation might need to end because of time or other responsibilities. If you need to leave, being polite and direct is the best approach. Saying, "I have to go now, but I really enjoyed our chat," lets the other person know that the conversation is ending, but in a friendly way. If the conversation felt awkward or if the other person did not seem interested, a simple and polite, "It was nice talking to you" works well. The goal is always to leave a good impression, even if the interaction was short. Mastering the skill of conversation takes time and practice, but it is a valuable ability that can improve social and professional relationships. Starting with small conversations in everyday situations builds confidence and makes talking to new people feel easier. Whether it is a short chat with a stranger or the beginning of a new friendship, every conversation is an opportunity to connect, learn, and grow. The most important part of any conversation is making the other person feel heard and valued. When people feel comfortable talking to you, interactions become more meaningful, and communication becomes a skill that opens doors to new experiences. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. That subject is too personal. Impolite. Mind your own business. Phrase you use when you don't want to answer a question. That's personal. Arrive. Come in from. Too much information. TMI. Too interested in others' private matters. Nosy. About a person's private thoughts, feelings, etc. Personal. Because of that. In that case, to look for private information about someone. Snoop. A polite phrase to use where you are saying something sensitive. If you don't mind me saying so, do not misunderstand me. Don't get me wrong. Where would you like to go? Where to? In foreign countries. Overseas. To live in a place your whole life. To be born and raised. The United States. Good old US of A. Let's try that faster. Because of that. In that case, where would you like to go? Where to? Arrive. Come in from. In foreign countries. Overseas. The United States. The good old US of A. About a person's private thoughts, feelings, etc. Personal. Do not misunderstand me. Don't get me wrong. To live in a place your whole life. To be born and raised. Too interested in others' private matters. Nosy. To look for private information about someone. Snoop. Too much information. TMI. A polite phrase to use where you are saying something sensitive. If you don't mind me saying so, that subject is too personal. Impolite. Mind your own business. Phrase you use when you don't want to answer a question. That's personal. Now say the word and hear it in a sentence. Come in from.